In this video, I'm going to show you how to apply the NTS system to barebow, and we are going to cover the set system today. Within set system, we are going to cover stance and posture. This is the first video within the series of the NTS system applying to barebow. We're going to cover the set position, and within set position, stance and posture. There are more things within the set position like hooking and gripping, but that'll be in the next video. So in this video, we're really just going to be focusing on the proper stance and the proper posture. Luckily, I've shot barebow enough to be able to tell you the tiny little details that really do help, and the little things that I have found are a little bit of a hiccup within the NTS system, and I'll make sure that any of those that I come upon I will address. That way you'll be able to have a leg up applying this technique to barebow. Set position is when you are already on the line, you already have an arrow in your bow and you're ready to shoot. This is set position. I am ready to lift the bow to go into shooting. So within set position, the main four things are stance, posture, hook, and grip. Hook and grip, again, we're going to cover later, but in this section, we're going to talk about stance and posture. Stance is very simple, and it's really not too difficult. And we use an open stance because it helps really get engaged in your back a little bit more. Now, how much you need to stand open really depends on your ability, mostly your flexibility. So the more flexible you are, the more you can get away with a more open stance. The less flexible you are, the less open, the more closed your stance is going to have to be. The main limiting factor is the ability to rotate your torso like this, independent of your hips. Not rotating your hips like this, but keeping your hips stable and being able to rotate your torso. That's the main limiting factor of how open or closed your stance is going to have to be. For a general rule of thumb, we're looking at a 10 to 15 degree open stance. That means that if this is the target line, our stance would be open like this with our hips pointing away from the target 10 to 15 degrees. That's a rough rule of thumb and a rough starting point. Some people will end up getting much more than that, and some people have actually gone the opposite direction, overly closed, due to a real limitation of flexibility. Paying attention to your ability to keep your hips locked over your feet and ankles and being able to rotate and get into alignment, monitoring those two things are really going to dictate to you how open or closed your stance can be. Now, which direction do you angle your hips to? If you are right-handed, you want to have your hips pointing to the left of the target, where you're almost facing the target more than having a closed stance. A closed stance, my target would be directly over my shoulders and my hips would be pointing at my target. An open stance for a right-handed shooter is my hips and my shoulders pointing to the left of the target face. If you are left-handed, it would be pointing the opposite direction. And again, it's 10 to 15 degrees. The shoulders, if they're over your hips, start pointing to the left. Once we get to full draw, they'll be pointing at the target. So from here on out, I'm going to speak as a right-handed shooter. If there is a right, left, or front foot, back foot, just flip those if you are left-handed. So how much is a 10 to 15 degree open stance? For me, it is my left foot, the foot that is towards the target face. The ball of that foot, if I were to draw a straight line back from the target and intercepting the ball of my left foot, that line would then continually extend until the instep of my right foot or my back foot. So the ball of your left foot intercepting the instep, or the, where the arch of your foot is on the right side, that's roughly a 10 to 15 degree open stance. And every single time I step on the line and address the target line, I try to put my instep of my right foot intersecting with the ball of my left foot pointing at the center of the target. I do that for field archery, I do that for indoor, outdoor, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. That's a rough starting point. Now, where to and how to put your feet and align them. So if this is a closed stance and this is a open stance, what do we do with our feet angles? When you go from closed to open, do you keep your feet parallel? Do you turn them? Are they like this? You know, all those little things make a difference. In my experience, I've found when you go to an open stance, you should rotate everything as a whole and not just shift your feet like this. So you're going to rotate your feet this direction, and then you want to keep them almost parallel, or at the very most, this back foot can be parallel to the shooting line like this, but doing that type of thing really starts to change and affect your posture. And I'll show you here in a second. Basically, what I have found is the further straight or the more open, the more duck-footed I am, basically, the more I naturally want to arch my back, which is a bad thing. We're about to cover posture and I'll address that why. But quickly, in stance, if I have my right foot open too much like this, I then start to naturally sway my back. So you can see I'm pretty arched, standing very duck-footed. If I close my feet up, I start to naturally want to sit in the proper posture that I'm going to explain to you here in a moment. So even just at home, if you stand up, take your back foot and open it more, you'll feel more pressure in your lower back. Straighten your feet up more parallel, you'll feel less pressure in your lower back. Ideally, unless you have some imbalances in flexibility within your system. Now that we've explained how to place our feet on the line and which direction, we're also going to quick talk about balance and where we're putting our pressure on our feet. We want to have more weight on the balls of our feet than we do on our heels. The reason we want to have more weight on the balls of our feet is we have more of an athletic stance that way, to basically have the ability to resist the wind blowing you around, to feel more stable, to have a very solid base, to build a good structure upon a solid foundation. So having more weight on the balls of your feet allows you to grip the ground more with your toes, and it allows you to engage the muscles that you need to stabilize, to keep yourself nice and still, to resist the wind blowing on you, and things like that. So we get to that 60% of the weight on the balls of our feet from not leaning forward, so not doing this, but actually through attaining the proper posture. So the proper posture actually sets the balance front to back in the correct way. So the way that we get into the correct posture is to actually be lazy and slouch. It is very counterintuitive to a normal lifestyle, a normal, healthy, proper posture lifestyle. But archery is different, and we don't need proper posture for the lifestyle. We need proper archery posture, which is totally the opposite of normal posture. Proper posture is actually with a slouched and kind of lazy look to it, where you're kind of rounded forward, you've dropped your chest, and you're actually engaging your core a little bit to keep yourself down in this position. So when you are shooting, you have the most amount of clearance in your chest that you possibly can. The string clearance for having a long axle to axle or tip to tip bow, we need to have a lot of chest clearance, especially when we really try to get into the alignment we're trying to get into. For example, to get into the proper alignment, meaning this wrist, this shoulder, and this shoulder being in a straight line, using bones to hold the bow back, not muscles, that is ideal. So in order to make these three things be in a straight line like this, you have to have your elbow, the right elbow, in line with the string like so. So you'll see, you can't see my elbow. I am stacked and using the bow almost like this. That's how I feel. I'm trying to resist walls from closing in on me. That's how I feel while at full draw, ideally, using bones, not muscles, to hold the bow back. I can't get into that position if I have my chest up high. If I have my chest up high, my string will intercept with my left pec, and it can be an issue and actually just touches the rib cage. So if I have my chest high, as I go to pull back to get into proper alignment, you'll see the string buries into my chest, and it's very uncomfortable to get into proper alignment. And if you're female or if you're on the larger side, you'll really be unable to get into proper alignment with your chest high. So chest up, the string runs into your torso, and I can't properly anchor. So to properly anchor, I then have to break my alignment, and now you can see my elbows outside my arrow line, and I'm now in a little bit of a triangle position from these three spots. So dropping the chest gives you string clearance. Chest high, String touches my chest, drop my chest, good alignment. Now the string has plenty of gap. So how do you get there? Simple and easy, at least for me, to explain in the easiest way that I possibly can. Have your proper posture, or a proper stance rather, on your feet. And what I do is I breathe in deep into my chest and then breathe it all out. And now I breathe from my abdomen, or using my diaphragm. I no longer chest breathe. So breathe into my chest, out, and now I'm breathing down here, and I'm not moving my chest when I breathe. So instead of, I am now down here. That is the proper posture. Just a simple, instead of up, that right there, that is the proper chest drop here. Another bonus that really happens when you get into this proper posture is, as I breathe in to my chest and chest breathe with proper posture, you'll see my head comes out of my body vertically, which means the string would want to intersect with my chest if I were in this proper alignment. But once I drop my chest, see how everything is shifted forward? My head is shifted this direction as well. It's not coming out of my torso straight up. It's coming out kind of this direction. And that allows, when I come into anchor, the string to be out here instead of up here. Hopefully that makes sense. Whew, now I'm lightheaded from all that weird breathing while I'm trying to talk. Getting into the proper posture is relatively easy, but learning how to breathe from the abdomen is a little difficult. So something you can do at home is to sit in a chair. You can actually do this in a chair, or you can do it standing, and feel yourself breathe. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your abdomen, and when you're breathing, try to feel which one moves. If you're breathing like most normal people that have not actually tried to breathe in their diaphragm breathe, you're gonna be more of a chest breather. You're gonna feel the chest rise and fall as you're breathing, but if you've done some martial arts or really any focus on breathing, you'll feel more of your abdomen raise and lower. So you'll feel it more down here. So really try to focus on moving down here and breathing with your abdomen rather than breathing with your chest. I found, again, and I actually do this every single time I shoot, after I hook and grip and set my stance, I breathe into my chest, relax, and now I keep it just into my abdomen. Obviously I'm not breathing that fast or that loud, because I'd be blowing on the neighbor next to me while he's on the line, and nobody wants to be blown on when they're at full draw or hear anybody huffing and puffing. So trying to keep that a little bit more controlled and not as exaggerated like I'm doing for the video is definitely going to be a little bit better, and you'll make less enemies. So that's how you get into the habit of breathing into your abdomen. And it really will actually help calm you down if you start to breathe through the abdomen rather than through the chest cavity as well. Now, something that is very important to note about this stance is that your hips should actually be over your heels and your feet. Your hips do not turn and point towards the target. You want your hips to still stay open to the target, or wherever your feet are normally set, you want them to be engaged there too. Something that you can also add into this is doing a thing that my wife came up with, and a way to explain how to stabilize the hips and keep the hips locked over the feet properly. It's very simple, at least the way she explained it. And that is basically trying to imagine your feet sinking into the ground, and you want to pull your feet apart. Imagine standing on paper towels, 1 foot on each square with that perforated line in the middle, you know, where you tear the paper towels. And you want to feel yourself kind of try to imagine your feet sinking into the ground and then tearing that paper towel apart. Don't try to tear like this. Don't try to tear like this or like this. Your feet just straight apart. And it's not a lot. Don't add a whole lot of tension. Really just try to add a level 2 out of 10 intensity. Very, very quick. What is intensity? This is 0 and relaxed. This is 10. I'm squeezing as hard as I possibly can, but I can close my hand with a 2. Do a 2 out of 10. Do the least amount of effort as possible to do the actual thing that I'm talking about. So feet sink into the ground and you tear those paper towels apart. When you do that, it's going to really engage the muscles around your hip girdle, and it's going to stabilize the hips and lock them over your feet so you can't rotate your hips independent of your feet, and it'll actually stabilize your entire base as a whole. So again, very quick overview: 10 to 15 degrees open, ideal. The ball of the left foot intercepting the instep of the right foot, so the front foot and the back foot like that. That is a quick, easy reference for 10 to 15 degrees. 60% of the weight on your feet should be on the balls of your feet. You get that balance by dropping your chest because it moves everything slightly forward. It is not by leaning. And how you get the chest down is to breathe into your chest, breathe all the way out, and now breathe through your abdomen. Another way to lock your hips over your feet is to tear paper towels apart. You should tear those paper towels and set this chest drop and only abdomen breathe from now until the very end after you have finished release and follow through. You do not relax it as you lift the bow, and you do not relax it as you release. You keep that tension all the way until you finish your shot. And as we progress further, you'll learn when the shot ends and when that tension can be ended. If you haven't yet, please do hit that subscription button and the notification bell. I'm going to be doing this series to the very end, and I want you guys to be notified when I upload new videos. They'll happen often, and I'm going to take this series through the very end. And if you need to refresh yourself or want to have a nice manual on how to use the KSL shot cycle or the NTS system, grab this book here. It's called Total Archery Inside the Archer. It's written by my coach, Keesik Lee, as well as a previous teammate of mine, Tyler Benner. It's great information, a great resource to learn all about pretty much everything you need to know for the KSL shot cycle. It's a great added set of materials to this video series. I'll have links in the description below for Amazon, as well as on my website, jkaminski.com, on where you can pick this up. And please check out my Teespring apparel. You can see I have some Barebow specific apparel, and it's available also in links in the description below. So thanks. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider hitting the subscription button and the notification bell, as well as the like button. I would appreciate it. Also, please consider supporting my channel. If you head to my website, jakekaminski.com, there'll be info and links on Patreon, apparel, books, and equipment sales, PayPal donate button, a P.O. box to send things to, and above all else, please share this video because there's no better advertising than word of mouth.